Welcome back to another episode of Have You Heard, the podcast brought to you by us, The Social Shepherd. Today, I'm joined by Zoe Williams, one of our social media directors here at The Social Shepherds. And we've got a big topic today of social predictions for the coming year. There's lots going on. As we all know, social changes lots, digital changes lots. But as a social media agency, obviously, we're going to be talking about social today and where we see it heading, what we're already seeing sort of emerging on the different platforms and how that's sort of adapting our strategies. Zoe, do you want to take it away with the first one?
God, yeah, where shall I start? Okay, I think we should talk potentially about iOS 17 coming into play and how that's going to impact social and more specifically organic social. So obviously we're going to be able to track less and where traffic's coming from organic onto GA. So we're not really going to be able to see that. So I think it's ultimately looking at how we're best utilizing our social platforms and looking at more for that sort of mass reach and mass awareness for brands.
Yeah. Obviously, I guess organic social is one of the hardest channels to drive traffic towards, especially like Instagram, TikTok. You know, you're trying to get people into bio or on stories and clicking through there. So it's already been, I guess, somewhat challenging. But this obviously throws a bit of a spanner in the works. It'll still drive the traffic, the same volume of traffic. Like we said, it's going to be harder to track the exact source, whether it's come from bio, come from stories. As if you haven't heard about iOS 17, it is going to strip all the UTM parameters from that, or the majority of those. So from like a multi-touch point of view, in GA, it's going to make it much tougher. And I guess within the organic social team and how we view things, obviously we want to show the impact of what we do. Unfortunately, making it harder, but it is still very much gonna be able to drive the same amount of volume of traffic there. So I think it's obviously a big one to be thinking about, considering, and obviously it impacts paid quite a lot more heavily, I guess, in that sense. What other things do you have on the agenda for this year?
So I think really it's that massive topic of social SEO, I think, and discoverability for brands on those platforms. So obviously we're seeing an increase of people going to these social platforms. We've seen a massive increase this year to go there for, I guess, searchable content and to ask those questions in that social space instead of on your typical search engine platforms like Google. So really making sure that brands are showing up within those spaces. So I think it's really important that brands for 2024 are looking at that discoverability in their content and how you maximize that through SEO.
How do you maximize it?
How do we maximize that? So basically making sure that you're firstly using all the tools available to you in platforms. So that can be the creative center or the key sort of keywords that TikTok sort of releases on their website that you can tap into. It's really important to obviously keep that brand tone of voice that you want to go after without sort of hammering SEO through it, but making sure that your content is searchable through those keywords and through trending sounds, and making sure you're sort of using in-app features. Those would be my top 3 ones for 2024 to really optimize that content so people searching on the platform will be able to find your content.
Nice. Yeah, I know back in the day for SEO, there's a lot of like black hat techniques, like they like to call it. Even in stories or previously, people would like do a hashtag and then make it really pinch it down to be really small and try and hide these hashtags in their stories to become more discoverable. It's not about that, is it? It's about, I guess, thinking consumer first and actually giving them what they want, but building it into a narrative that is searchable as a part of that sort of content you're creating.
Exactly. And really looking at sort of the niches your brands have to offer and what that consumer will be searching around that, and creating your videos based off of content that your consumer wants to see and not just creating content for the sake of creating content.
100%. And I know one other area we talked about before jumping on today is more like text-based posts. What are your thoughts about text-based, and what are you referring to as sort of like text-based posts?
Text-based posts are basically like your old school Facebook statuses that you used to write in like 2012, but for brands. So we're actually seeing internally a massive sort of engagement on these text posts. and also how you can kind of optimize those through AI. So it's a really good platform to be able to, you know, put those captions in, put those text posts in and try and get sort of other alternatives through too. It's also really good tests to be able to post text posts cross-platform and see the results and how they may vary per platform. Obviously, with X coming back into play, we've got the launch of Threads as well. And then really, ultimately, we are seeing the biggest uplift on text posts in Facebook. So just maybe taking those Facebook text posts and cross-posting them on those other channels, which you might necessarily not have a strategy for. It's obviously hard to maintain multiple channels for clients. So maybe just taking one sort of text-based post and cross-posting that to see the performance of it. I think it's really interesting. And I think people kind of like that straightforward content that they can really engage in and basically have their own opinion on as well.
So for like Instagram, would you say you're writing the tweet first? I don't know if it's still called a tweet, because obviously, I don't know, or is it an X? I don't know. Are you saying create that, post that there, screenshot it, and then post it for Instagram? Or again, using note, I know I've seen a lot of content where people actually write something in their notes section or their iPhone, screenshot that and like utilize that and then post that as a screenshot on Instagram. Is that how we're saying for Instagram specifically? Or are you just saying that use text-based posts purely for Facebook, LinkedIn, X?
I think they can work on Instagram. Obviously, you might see that if you use Canva, you can put a bit of a template behind it and put it together that way. You can use your branded content as well, just as a background with your text posts in front of it. It just kind of adds that layer to the platform, because obviously you do still want that content to be aesthetically pleasing. That is why people go to that platform. But just making sure that that text post really is going to relate to your audience as well, so that you see engagement.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess moving away from more text-based, image-based content, video, it's always a hot topic and it will continue to be. I don't think it's going away. But I guess over the last few years, definitely been one that's comes up more in conversation. Obviously, brands are moving more of their budget towards video in terms of their social creative, their resourcing, output, all of that good stuff. But I guess one of the things that I know you noticed is sort of longer videos coming back into it. We've seen obviously short form be massive through Shorts, TikTok, Reels, but I know TikTok are doing different things to their platform. And what have you seen from sort of longer videos? Yeah,
I can't believe we're talking about longer form videos after we've just all advocated for short form videos. But yeah, longer form videos. So I don't think it'll be longer form in terms of like that 7-minute content. I think it's more looking towards that 2-minute to 5-minute space content. Obviously, Instagram Reels have now increased to 15 minutes long. So I think it's really you're really going to start to see rewards in the algorithm by sort of utilizing that effect within platforms. So that longer form content will probably start getting good reach and engagement due to the algorithm, due to the availability of being able to post these longer form contents. I know TikTok are looking to roll out the similar time length as well for 15 minutes too, which is really interesting. But again, it goes back to not creating those 5-minute contents for the sake of it. Like, you really need to make sure it aligns with your brand. And again, optimizing through those SEO keywords too. Behaviors are changing on platform. So obviously people are going for that search-led content, obviously using social as a search engine, but ultimately as well, they want to be entertained. People have time to kill. They want that longer form content. Obviously, we saw that Paramount published the whole of the Mean Girls movie back on October 3rd, 4th.
Did you watch it?
I didn't watch the entire movie. But just really sort of looking at how other people are utilizing that longer form content as well. Again, make it searchable, make it relatable to your brand, make sure that you're answering the questions that your consumer wants to see in those videos, but how you best do that in that longer form content. Especially, for example, on YouTube, it's a great, way in to be able to get to your audience to long form content by using YouTube Shorts to kind of get them in, watch the YouTube short, and then send them on to your longer form content. I
know we've been trying that ourselves. So yeah, no, definitely. I think I mean, I'm a big advocate of longer videos, but also I do get sucked into the whole, as we all do, TikTok hole, and you sit there for hours on end scrolling down. And I guess let's sort of touching on a few more bits about us as social media managers and channel managers, community managers, everything that sort of encompasses the role as sort of a social media manager. And obviously we have a lot of members of our team that are social media managers, and also people that listen to this podcast as well that are. But how do you feel like their role is going to shift across the next year with all these changes? How do you think they're going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to adapt as an agency supporting brands?
Definitely. I think AI is a massive topic at the moment, and one we've spoken about many times internally and obviously on the podcast as well. And I think especially in 2024, the use of AI is going to be really important to a social media manager. I think it's really going to be able to shape the way agencies work internally, whether that's from a more efficient standpoint, being able to produce things quicker, more variety of that content as well, being able to turn that out quicker. I also think as well, just making sure that social media managers are kind of used to the basics of AI as well, really taking advantage of the platforms available to kind of test and just get familiar with it, and then look at how that they can implement that into their strategies. Yeah. I think it's really important, like from a GDPR perspective, that you're not really sharing anything that's, super sensitive for a brand or internally.
So how do you think roles within social teams, whether that being a sort of agency or brands, will shape? Do you think it will remain the same structure as sort of social media manager, social media exec, maybe head of social? Or do you think it will go more specialist within sort of organic social and content? So you have a TikTok specialist, just a community manager? Because I know obviously where we're structured is they cover a fair amount, I guess, within their organic social specialists, but they do the community, they come up with the TikTok concepts, they come up with the content strategy and content plans for each individual month or quarter. Do you think it will remain that way, or do you think we might have like an AI specialist within the team, and marketing team should have that?
I think it's really important for a structure, and especially a social media manager, to be able to cover everything to an extent. I think obviously where you'd look to bring in specialists would be, I guess, as an agency where you really want the direction of it to go. I think it's really important, and especially like we've mentioned in this podcast, SEO being a massive thing on social, and we're only seeing an increase in that. I think it's really important to potentially look at onboarding and get specialists in sort of copywriting areas to make sure you're really utilizing keywords within the spaces, and that your content really has that hooking narrative that you need for your social content, so it is searchable on platform. I think that is something that definitely should be approached and definitely should be looked at as sort of within an agency. Yeah. But I do think it's important for managers to have skills that they can utilize across everything. Because
that's the thing, like in an ideal world, you might have like a specialist for each individual area, but is the resource required within a brand or an agency to have someone that only does that one thing? Obviously, I think in an ideal world, it'd be great, but it's also important to have those people that do understand everything from a really great place, have strong foundations, can provide feedback, thoughts, ideas, strategy across the breadth of organic social or paid social or influencer, whatever area they're sort of covering, to still have their own individual specialism, but also remaining that sort of breadth of knowledge, I guess, across social and digital as a whole. Because as you know, questions come up. We get asked all sorts about different challenges, even though it might not be our sort of thing that we're meant to be focusing on, but it's good to have that balanced view and how brands work, operate outside of social, because obviously social plays a big part of that, but also there's other areas that we need to be taking account of and how we take that forward with our strategies. Is there anything else? Is there a TikTok shop, social commerce? What are we thinking there?
I think it's going to be really big for brands. I know there's current talk at the moment about sort of authenticity on the platform, because we're seeing lots of other people jump on it and sell stuff which might not necessarily be authentic or the right use of, it's not really trustworthy, some people are saying at the moment. I think, however, in terms of like shoppable content, it's going to be massive. I think it's Gen Z, it's their second place they go to shop. It's on social. So it's definitely going to be big in 2024. I think brands really need to look at content that they're putting out if they are going to be utilizing it. People still are going to the platform for discoverability. They want to be entertained. They don't want to be interrupted by an ad on the platform. So really making sure that if it is a shoppable ad, and if you are linking to TikTok Shop, that you do it in a subtle way. Do
you think live will, like TikTok lives, as like we've obviously seen those like live shopping videos, and you scroll and they're trying to sell you something, and they're on there for hours trying to sell the same, or like some sort of package of some sorts. But obviously in the sort of the, I guess, Eastern world and China and other countries similar to there, live video seems to be massive. You see those behind the scene videos where it's like a big factory and they're just lined up with camera and light setups and they're all going live. I wonder if it will get anywhere close to that, or if live shopping will become more of a thing on these platforms for brands. Yeah,
and I think as well, also how you like use the live feature to do other things as well. So like live events, live concerts, I know are going to be a big thing for 2024. Cool. I think Ticketmaster have just released an integration within the platform for ticket sales, but also how they can utilize that for live events. So I think the live feature is going to be something that's big, but I think it might slightly shift maybe away from shoppable and maybe more towards that entertainment element.
Yeah. I could imagine like sports on there as well. They could buy rights to that. So I'm super intrigued. I know Amazon themselves have started buying rights for more sports. So instead of commercial breaks, it's going to be like a live shoppable event where you can actually just purchase directly on Amazon at the same time rather than just watching a commercial. So you might see things like that almost translate over into social as well, and how it all becomes very much more integrated. I think that's definitely where social is heading, is that sort of integrated approach. You can watch, you can be entertained, you can communicate with friends, and you can purchase and become those like everything apps like X is saying that they want to become, but we'll wait and see if that happens or not. Any more thoughts?
I think for 2024 as well, a big thing that I think is going to come and that potential clients might want to see is like metrics and how we're reporting. Obviously, you can look to buy sort of like likes, comments, engagement through your boosted ads and your paid ads, but really looking at those sort of other metrics that kind of validate your content and really like shows that people have resonated with it. So obviously there's been talk about sort of shares and being able to see how many people have shared content on platform. No, it's coming for Instagram, and obviously some platforms already do it like X. I think that's going to become more of a topic of conversation that social media managers are going to be having with clients and really looking at sort of impacts of content and how people have resonated with it through that metric of shares.
Yeah, 100%. Because I know like Adam Mazzari from Instagram talks about it quite openly. Like people on Instagram spend their time by sharing content in DMs to their friends. As a part of it, Messenger is a huge part of Instagram, obviously the Explore pages as well. But like you mentioned, shares and how shares impact DMs and start conversations between friends. I know I certainly do it. I see a reel, share it from a friend and have that sort of common ground about that piece of content. And then the conversation sort of continues from there. So I think 100% shares is a metric that most brands should be their sort of top priority in terms of.
Exactly. And then when you're looking at sort of strategy for that content, really making sure that when you're looking in like brainstorming, content storming, you should look at like how you can make that shareable. So whether like how things are short, and start looking at what's already worked on the platform and what your previous sort of audience have shared and engaged with, and really taking that as a sort of a base level to then kind of heighten when you're coming to create that content.
Amazing. I think I'm looking at my list on my laptop. I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about. I know there's a lot in there, but hopefully a lot of people can take away from today's discussion. But if you guys have any thoughts of your own predictions going into 2024, please drop them below, and we'll be more than happy to sort of discuss them on future podcasts and see, get our thoughts about it as well. But make sure to subscribe wherever you are, and hopefully we'll see you very, very soon.